Okay, welcome to those of you coming in. We'll get started with the webinar in a couple minutes. Okay, welcome. My name is Dave Evers, and I am Manager of Business Development in Executive and Professional Development in the University of Auckland Business School. I'd like to thank you for joining this Transitioning to the C-Suite program information session today. So our goal of this session is to really give you an overview of the program as we go through the presentation. What we'll do today is we'll have an overview of the program from myself and Dr. Laura Harvey, the program manager, and then we're really lucky and happy to have 4 of our alumni here from the past year, and they're going to talk about their experience going through the program, and then we'll do Q&A at the end. If you have Q&A if you have questions as we're going through, you can submit them through the Q&A function, and we can take them as we're going through or wait till the end. But please feel free to submit those as we're going through. Okay, so executive and professional development in the business school. So we're one of the divisions that provides executive training, capability development for New Zealand organizations, non-degree training. Basically, we do custom programs for organizations, large-scale programs. We do capability development, short 1 or 2 day courses that many of you might have looked at or taken, and then we do our leadership journey programs. One of which is the Transition to the C-Suite program, which we will be talking about today, and that starts up in August. It's a 3-month program, 6 days, 3 modules, and now, if you're interested after going through this session, this is really a great first step for you to join to learn about it. We're very happy to have conversations with you following the session. So just reach out to us. We can talk to you personally about your situation, and then we have a very brief application that you would submit to be considered for the program to start in August. So the timing is very good for you right now to be joining the session. So you're probably thinking, why do a strategic C-suite program? And really, we consider this a senior leadership program, really targeted at people that are at mid-level management that are looking to move into the C-suite over the next 5 to 7 years in that time frame. And really, what we've had, the program's been running through since 2016 in different versions. We've changed it over the years. But basically, what the people, and we have about 300 alumni that have gone through the program, and we have basically what we've had is people from functional areas, whether it's finance, technology, supply chain, human resources, that are at mid-management and really focused in their function area, but they're looking to move into senior management. And as you move into senior management at the CFO, the CIO level, managing director of human resources, or a managing director of organization, you're really thinking more strategically, right? You're moving away from that functional area and you're thinking strategically about the strategy of the organization. You're communicating with senior management, whether it's the CEO, the board, externally to senior clients, which is really a different way of thinking and communicating than when you're working within your division or at mid-level levels in the company. So that's, the first thing. Second is expanding your network, which is really critical as you're moving your way in your career. A lot of times people are working in the same organization for a number of years, and their network is really within their company, right? So within their company, maybe within their function, it can become very static. So when you come into a program like this, it really gives you an opportunity to exponentially expand your network very quickly through your peer group of, say, 30 people in the 30 peers in the program, through the faculty at the University of Auckland, through the industry speakers that we have coming in. So really, there's such a great opportunity to quickly expand your network and learn from others, gain best practices and innovations. Again, you're working within your organization. Through what comes through in the discussion during the sessions as you're going through the program is going to be a lot of what other organizations and companies are doing, best practices, some cutting edge theory from our faculty that you can take and bring back to your organization. So gain confidence and competence. Again, this is really important. In my background, I worked in a lot of executive MBA programs, and this is what you hear people talk about so much. They've worked in an organization and they think they're doing things correctly, but they haven't benchmarked it, or they maybe haven't gotten the theory and learning. And so going through these programs, they really are gaining confidence and understanding how they're doing things and learning new ways of doing things, and to increase your visibility within your organization. So I think as much as anything, asking, most of the participants coming in are supported by their organization. And sometimes that's a challenge to go to your management and ask to be sponsored for a program like this. But I think it shows the organization that you are interested in moving up and developing. And even if it's a challenge for them to sponsor you, even if it's this year, it could be for the future. So I think it is a signal to your organization that you do want to gain visibility, that you do want to advance. And then as you're going through the program, it'll help you to be recognized as someone who is participating in something with the University of Auckland that is connected to leading and developing. And as you're looking at those senior roles, this is something that will certainly help you, and something that you can talk about as you're going through your company and career path. So what will you gain from the program? So this is a very practical focus program. So it is the University of Auckland. So what we're teaching you, which we'll talk about in a few seconds, and the sessions are academically based and focused based on research, but it's very practical. So we want you to be able to take what you're learning in the classroom and bring it back to your organization. And our alumni can also talk to you about what they've learned from the program and what they've taken back. So you develop a lifelong relationship with the University of Auckland, which is the leading university in New Zealand. Many of our alumni have gone to the university undergrad, many have not, and it's just really really an infrastructure of learning that you get involved in, that you can participate in, and you'll have relationships. You'll get relationships with faculty and develop a lot of relationships that'll go forward as you come out of the program. So mentoring and coaching from our advisor group members. So we've done this in different ways over the years as far as organizing this, but certainly there are many industry leaders in the program, and you'll have an opportunity to develop these relationships and develop mentoring relationships, and certainly, as I mentioned, exponentially expand your professional network through our advisor group, through our peers, our faculty, guest speakers, and our alumni. Okay, great. Now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Laura Harvey, who's the program manager for the C-Suite program, and ask her to talk a little bit about the actual structure and specifics of the program.
Hey, thank you very much, Dave. Good afternoon, everyone. So beautifully put. I am Dr. Laura Harvey. I was an academic here at the University of Auckland, and I've come across to, I think, the brighter side of the street, which is professional development, because as I say, the people who come to learn with us here actually really want to be here and really want to learn. So I much prefer this side of the street. Now, I will give you a really brief overview of the program structure. Now this, as you can see, is divided up into 6 discrete modules, but they are interlinked. So we have really the beginning is this, our jumping off point here is, okay, so you are a functional expert. Of course, you're good at what you do, which is why, you know, you want to take it to the next level. So what we do is we focus on leadership here. Now, it's the type of leadership. So there's that real distinction between there is being a good manager, but leadership is something different. So we really take you through that. We start, of course, with a porphyry and then go on to 2 days that take you through different perspectives of the type of leadership that you need. I mean, we're all very aware that we live in times which are full of uncertainty and ambiguity. Things are changing so rapidly, and they say fast-paced business. Well, it's really to the power of 10 now, isn't it? Especially with all sorts of different things that are coming in, AI and the like. I think we all need to be very fleet of foot with it. So that's where we start. The leadership that will help you in those uncertain, fast-moving times is our focus in day 1 and day 2. Then we move on to really honing in on strategic thinking and innovation mindsets. So you can see throughout those 2 days, one is strategy, one is innovation, but we tie it all together at the end of day 4 there we'll use a very future-focused simulation where you will take the things that you have learned through the strategy and innovation learnings there and actually apply them. Try those new skills out, try them out with your peers, really get some concrete experience of them, but in a beautiful simulation where there isn't too much skin in the game and the risk isn't high. And then we finally move to our last 2 days, 5 and 6, that's communicating to achieve maximum leadership impact. Now, in that, we also have a focus on change and how you lead change from that executive level. And of course, with any change, you have to get buy-in, you have to bring people with you. So we finish off that change day with a really great module on negotiating and persuading, which, you know, those are fabulous skills to deepen, aren't they? And then we finish off on day 6 with our communications expert, who is very well versed. He works in many different countries and with people at the executive level. So we finish off on a high there with our executive communication. And throughout, you'll see we have, it says at the bottom, application of learning exercises. So we don't just give you ideas, give you concepts, and then leave you alone with it. We get you to formulate just a really short little presentation you can see on day 3 and day 5 there. So you'll come and present back to one another something that you have learned in those days previously and something that in the meantime you have actually applied in the workplace, and you would talk about it, but we'll have our communications expert come and watch those presentations and give you individualized feedback, because I think so much, again, you can be a functional technical expert, but a real big part of moving to the executive level is developing those presentation skills, that how to bring people with you, how to really engage people. So that's a key thread that we pull through this program, and we finish with that and we wrap it all up, bring it all together for you. Throughout the structure of the program, we also have 3 peer mentoring sessions. So those 2 are facilitated, and 1 is with your peer group on your own. You'll do that. But our expert there is Dr. Peter Blyde, and he is a tremendous leadership scholar and also someone who has great experience in mentoring and teaching people how to mentor, which of course is those skills, again, when you take it to the executive level, are an absolute must to have deepened and honed those skills. So shall we move to the next slide, Dave?
Sure. Why we're not moving? There you go.
Here we are. So this again is a very broad outline of the elements of the program. I mentioned their peer coaching that Dr. Peter Blyde runs for us. You'll be in peer working groups some of the time. And of course, this is experiential learning. So when you come into the classroom, it's not a traditional classroom. We don't stand at the front and just impart the information and you scribble down your notes if you're a good student. It's not like that. We carefully introduce concepts, we explain them, we go through them, and then we get you to work with them on the day and to work with each other, because of course so much of learning on that professional development level is teaching and learning that you can do with each other, with your peer group that you go through the course with. And we found that absolutely is gold for people, that you can really use that to deepen your understanding perhaps of different areas in organizations that you are not so sure of, and you can draw from the experience of your peers and you can give your experience to them too. So that's so important. There will be presentations. We have a fantastic array of corporate speakers. I think when we get the alumni people to speak, they will be able to attest to that fact. We have some of the real top leaders in New Zealand that we can get them to come along, which is so good. And we get some of them to come to our working lunches so that you can have Q&A sessions with them over lunch, and it's very relaxed, but you really get to ask questions you've always wanted to ask of those types of experts. There will be time throughout the program for individual reflection and application of what you've learned. And of course, the little presentations that you'll do are part of that. We draw on academics from the University of Auckland as well, their expertise, their knowledge, their research, that's absolutely part of it. And as I mentioned, we have simulation and case studies as well that we have there. So that's
Great.
a real whirlwind tour. So I'll leave it back to Dave now.
Great. Thank you so much, Laura. Yeah, so as Laura mentioned, when I started with the program about 3 years ago, I was just amazed at the people we had coming through the programs each year. Really, these that were either as industry experts and advisors or coming through as guest speakers. And as Laura said, that's really one of the most valuable parts, that you'll have such an opportunity to hear from these people, and through lunches and small meetings, have an opportunity to talk to them and learn from them and develop mentoring relationships. So, the one that stands out right at the top is Greg Foran, who, as you know, is the CEO of Air New Zealand. And 2 years he came in and gave a presentation to our group of about 30 people, basically a closed door session. And I think it was the first time that he spoke publicly or to at a private session like this, and was just really, really a great session. I learned so much from it, and the students really enjoy it. But you can see Vanessa Sorensen, who's been involved with the program, the MD of Microsoft. Russell Jones is at B&Z, Paul Adams, who's the CEO of Everedge. So it's really a who's who of people, and Laura now is working on developing that. So we get the speakers, and then sometimes others will come up as the program's going along that we bring in, but we like to really bring some interesting people in. And what you hear from the speakers, they really enjoy it also, because you guys in the program, the participants, are also senior level people working from all different organizations. So that's why they're happy also to participate. And coming to the University of Auckland is sort of a neutral ground. So I think that's how we're able to get all these people to come in and speak at the program. And again, as I mentioned, the participants, this is just a sample from the last couple of years of the organizations. It's really the top companies in New Zealand, top businesses, or top public sector organizations that we have. And our alumni can talk about that also. But that's really what makes the program. And we have an app. That's why we have our application process, and we review your resume and your LinkedIn and have a conversation about you, because we want to have the right people in this program, because that's going to be your lifelong network as you come out of the program. And it's the people that are going to be having the discussion in the classroom. So we want to make sure that the right people are coming in, and feel confident that the people we're admitting are going to be people that, personally for me, is that I want to make sure when I come in that I'm really engaged with everybody, that I feel like everybody's adding to the program. So with that, this is really what people find to be the most valuable part of the session. So we're really happy to have 4 of our alumni, all from last year, that just went through, and they finished in December. So they have a fresh perspective, and they're going to talk to you a little bit of their experience, and then you can also ask questions. So just quickly before we have them speak, we have Kara Smith, who's with Talent, which is a recruiting organization. She's the managing director in New Zealand. Barry Coughlin, who's with ASB Bank, leading intelligence automation lead. Renee Jacobson, who's the CEO of Jacobson Flooring, and Rhonda Goodart, who's GM PNC Global Supply Chain, Food Safety, Regulatory, and H&W, that's a mouthful, at Fonterra. So I guess we'll just start with Kara, and I'll just stop sharing the screen, and maybe Kara, you can just talk a little bit about your experience, maybe a little bit about your background, your experience coming in the program, and what you gained from the program, and maybe some of the things that you really found valuable.
Yeah, sure. Kia ora, ko waio, ko putahi te maunga, ko o māpare te roto, ko ngā tukumata whaurawa te waka, ko ngāpuhi te iwi, ko te matarahu te hapu, ko te kotahitanga te marae, ko kaikohe tuku kāinga, ko Kara Smith tuku ingoa. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, Māori koutou katoa. So I'm Kara Smith. I'm the Managing Director for New Zealand for Talent International. We are a global technology recruitment firm. And my background is that I've been in the recruitment industry literally since my first job. So I was a 19-year-old that couldn't get a job through a recruitment company. They were sending me all sorts of places, and I was getting rejected. And they said, you know what, how about you just work here? And through that experience, that would have been about 18 years ago, I've worked my way through the ranks and have been in a leadership role for over 7 years now, and with Talent for 10 years coming up in July. So it's been a while. So why did I join the program? I was anticipating a promotion from the Auckland Managing Director role to the New Zealand Managing Director role, and I definitely felt a need for support, for more confidence, for more tools, to expand my network, to expand my thinking. As mentioned, I'd been with the company 10 years and had very much made that functional growth route. And I just felt the need for something additional, in particular from a commercial perspective. I was, and I am now, responsible for the strategic direction of the New Zealand business. And so I wanted to have some formal education to complement that. So when Dave was talking about the objectives of the program, I was just looking at that slide. I was actually going tick, 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 tick. I could certainly see that I had made progress in all of those areas, which is awesome. But there were three particular things that have really stuck with me that I wanted to highlight. And the first was Mike Pohio, which was actually the father of one of our peer alumni, was brought in. He works very closely with Ngāi Tahu and in their investments. And very much that was an introduction, definitely for myself and for a lot of us, in terms of kaitiakitanga and the role that Te Ao Māori values can play in corporate structures and in leadership. And that's why I introduced myself today with my pepeha. That is not that I am Māori, but that is not something, to be honest, I've actually been comfortable with leading with in the past. And so I'm certainly trying to embrace that now, because I can see how important that is. And this program helped me to shift that. Secondly, I wanted to get, and I did get, greater confidence and a greater understanding of the role of the board, and how I would best be communicating to the board. And that became very relevant because in January, I needed to present to the board in Australia at our headquarters around the strategic roadmap for the New Zealand business for the next 3 years. So that certainly came into play because that was experience I had never had before. And then thirdly, it helped me to understand the shift that I needed to make and to accept the strengths that I had. So not to devalue them, to accept the strengths I had, but to understand the shift that I needed to make. And it was Dr. Peter Blyde, who I in particular enjoyed, and he talked about a T-shaped concept. And he would talk about that I needed to get really effective at leading my team, because I needed to be able to spend 50% or more than 50% of my time at the top of the team, which is working with my peer group, C-suite, etc., in order for my career to go forward or to be effective in my role. And that was not something I'd fully considered before. And again, I think is indicative of that step up that I needed to make. So that really stuck with me. In terms of my further aspirations, obviously I've just stepped into this role in January, so I should do this job for a bit. But my further aspirations are C-suite, and I certainly, would further in the organisation. I do think this course and my extended network would help me to achieve that. So yeah, that's me. Back to you, Dave.
Thank you very much, Kara. That was great. Thanks for those comments. And
Welcome.
again, just to the audience, if you have any questions, feel free to submit them through the Q&A. But really good stuff. And I'm sure there'll be some questions, and look forward to following up as we go through the others. So maybe we can go now to Barry, if you want to talk a little bit about your experience in the program. That'd be great.
Yeah, no, happy to help. Yeah, I can't match Kara's preparedness, I'm afraid, but also awesome speech. And again, what you'll sort of pick up here probably is, again, that sort of diversity of thought that sort of comes into this forum, which to me was a key driver for the course. A little bit about me. So English originally. I went through sort of business information technology sort of avenues for uni and sort of related learning before joining PwC in sort of the consulting space. International sort of experience from London, New York, across the Middle East, Wellington, and then Auckland. So I hopped around a little bit from that perspective, and spent the last, what are we now, probably 7.5 years at ASB, where I lead the intelligence automation capability. Bit of a strange name, but basically it's one of the sort of basically largest technology teams in the bank. Do quite a bit of sort of cutting edge work on the latest sort of tech and tools, which is pretty exciting. Lead a team of between sort of 150 to 180 people, and yeah, for me it was sort of I guess that C-suite label is sort of where I want to sort of get to. Done a lot of the sort of subject matter courses, the trainings, the agiles, the sort of one days here and there, the internal courses. Also got a lot from my sort of management consulting experience prior to that, but I was just sort of after something a bit different, something that just has that sort of exposure to, I guess, New Zealand, to academia, to the industry, to the networks. And yeah, that's sort of why I sort of landed on this course. I was tossing up, this or an MBA, and which way do you go? And yeah, talking for a number of people, this felt like a probably a logical first step, and a good sort of way to sort of test my feet if I wanted to go further down that path as well. Am I able to sit in a classroom again and sort of learn from that perspective and sort of absorb content, which, yeah, tick, that was sort of definitely made easy through the course. But yeah, from my perspective, I think key things I sort of looked for and enjoyed, definitely sort of the networks and connections, which sounds a real easy label to just sort of put out there. Everybody, you know, go to a course and meet some people, but for me, it's a very sort of safe environment. So they're quite different personalities, as you sort of see. None of the people in that room I'd sort of come across before in my sort of previous experience in New Zealand. Quite a like-minded but sort of diverse group. So, you know, some great conversations, some great challenge. You know, there's no one sat on their own at lunchtime or the break time sort of thing. There's just conversations about the material or what's going on in your world or sort of beyond. And yeah, from me, you know, learning things about, you know, the sports industry or the dairy industry or quite a few from sort of the meat industry sort of thing, that I would never have got that sort of exposure. And, you know, there's some things that are very different, which are, you know, good to learn from. And there's also a lot of sort of commonality as well, right? So, yeah, good things that we sort of picked up and bounced around. And yeah, from that perspective, you know, very, 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 very useful. And then similarly, you know, I'd say it's a sort of a fast-paced course, but then there's lots of good breaks all the way through there. So very often when a presenter comes in, gives a presentation, you know, they hang around afterwards. So inevitably you get a chance to sort of unpack and digest and ask questions and just learn that bit extra or learn that bit more nuanced to what you're interested in. For me, the guest speakers, again, were sort of a particular highlight. So I sort of reflect on, we had Jennifer Seipel in as one of ours in the sort of the CTO track. And I think you sort of learn things that once you know them just sort of make sense. But the reality of hearing someone in those positions sort of expose and sort of become a bit vulnerable and explain how they've done, what they've learned, and how that sort of set them up for their futures. I sort of reflected going, there's no one actually above me at the moment that I think would be that honest to sort of tell that story. But by having these senior people that are sort of removed, they can get in there and sort of share things that you probably wouldn't have, you know, don't think I would have heard in the likes of ASB. So, you know, different approaches, the way they go to board, their apprehension on sharing issues and challenges and things with, you know, dare I say, direct reports, and, you know, in the fear they might react and go off and do something rather than just sort of, you know, chewing an idea around. Some of those things that, you know, yeah, obvious now, but yeah, it was great to hear someone of that caliber bringing that through. And yeah, and from my perspective, like we talked around sort of the mentorship, I've got Simon Kennedy, who's the CTO of Foodstuffs. Yeah, our course finished, you know, a long time ago now, but we still connect, right? So the people that are mentors for me aren't just there just to sort of tick a box. It's a sort of ongoing sort of relationship, I guess, that we've built where hopefully there's things I can help him with, and, you know, there's clearly a lot he can help me with, sort of thing. So it's been good to sort of continue that network from that perspective. And yeah, we met on Friday, right? So still going well. And then similarly, you'd have seen in one of the diagrams around sort of the peer mentoring. So as part of that, we're in a sort of a group of 3, and again, 2 others that have very different backgrounds to me, work in very different areas to me. But yeah, we still connect once a month and have a chat, sort of 8 till 9 on I think it's a Tuesday morning. And again, sort of just getting that sort of reset, because we sort of have the tools and techniques, but, you know, frankly, it does sort of leak out a little bit if you're not using it. But between the 3 of us, you know, there's someone who's done something they can reflect on and go, oh yeah, I unpacked that last week and used this tool, and oh yeah, I forgot all about that. Yeah, it might be good for me next week, sort of thing. So it just sort of helps reinforce. And again, these aren't people that, you know, you're competing with or on the same promotion round with or whatever else. Like it's a good, you know, open conversation, and in the interests of sort of growing all of us. So yeah, probably my key pieces. But yeah, feel free to stick anything in the chat. Happy to chat now, or yeah, ping me a message via Dave or LinkedIn or whatever works.
Great. Thank you so much, Barry. and we'll come back. Yeah, and so now I'd like to go to Renee, who comes from, I guess, a large family business. So a little bit of a different background. Maybe you could talk about your experience coming through the program.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, hi everyone. So yeah, my name's Renee Jacobson, and as Dave's just mentioned, the surname is not a coincidence. So I'm the CEO of Jacobson Flooring, and that's probably considered a larger size SME in New Zealand. We've got about 65 employees, and then we have a small niche manufacturing business as well within our flooring group. So yeah, that's a little bit of us. We bring in flooring from all around the world and sort of focus on import and distribution and sales and marketing, and supply nationwide all kinds of flooring products. I guess my background is a bit different because it is a family business, and so I've sort of been involved in it my whole life in some degree, and I have worked in different roles in my throughout my life. I did study at Auckland University a long time ago and did my undergrad there, which I really enjoyed. And I did spend some time living overseas as well, and obviously had some roles overseas. But most of my professional experience has been within the family business, but in lots of varied paths. I left there to have my 3 children and took quite a bit of time out through that, and then rejoined the business. It's probably about 6 years ago now, and had primarily been, when I went on the course, my role was the marketing and impact director, so yeah, marketing and sort of sustainability type initiatives. And I guess I just reached a point in my life and in my career where I was really starting to think what was next, as well. My manager and our chair were very much thinking about succession planning, and so we'd been having conversations around what did that look like for me, and also what sort of support would I need to make that transition. There wasn't really a clear idea at the time on time frame around that, but I did actually take the CEO role right at the end of the course, so at the end of last year, so it was really good timing, and it did provide like a lot of chance for me to reflect on things that were happening in my real world and my real work world at the time. But when I love learning, so I love doing lots of different courses, and I love connecting with people and just absorbing things that, you know, diverse groups of people have to share. And when our sort of chair talked to me about finding a program that I would want to participate in, I did actually spend quite a bit of time researching lots of different options, because, you know, you are committing my time, which I think is really precious, as well as obviously the company was covering the cost. So I was looking at things like internationally and some virtual things and lots of different stuff. I really landed on this program because I loved that a lot of it was in person. So for me, whilst like virtual learning is great, you can do it on your own time, like my life is pretty busy, and I liked the idea that it would just be in the calendar and I would go, and then once you're there and you're present and you're kind of fully committed to it, because it can be kind of hard to fit in, you know, you kind of make excuses otherwise to why you'll do it later and all that sort of thing. So I really enjoyed that it was like time boxed in those 6 days over 3 months. It was achievable, it was offsite, you could kind of go there and be fully immersed into it, and also give you that opportunity to network with our peers and with the guest speakers that come in, because I just think it's a different experience to be able to do that in person and to like have those kind of conversations that just sort of happen when you're all together in person. So that's one of the reasons why I chose it. Obviously, like the content was right up what I was looking for, and yeah, that's sort of how I went through the process of choosing. I did think about some bigger courses, longer term courses and things like that as well, kind of similar to Barry, but I just felt like this was achievable for me at that point in time and would stretch my thinking and kind of provide me with everything that I was looking for. I guess like, it might sound strange, but like one of the biggest things I got out of the course was some more confidence that nothing felt groundbreakingly different, I mean, I learned a lot, but it sort of was reassuring that I wasn't like at odds with some of the content that I was hearing. Like it felt like I agreed with it all. And so it actually gave me a lot of confidence to then step into my role versus I think it's just that I didn't necessarily have that total confidence before doing the course. So that was probably, like, strangely one of my biggest takeouts from doing the program. Obviously, I've already touched upon the peer group, and that's kind of already been said too, how fantastic it is to be with that group of people. My mentor, she is awesome, and I still stay connected to her as well. And so kind of just echoing what Barry was saying about, you know, someone who's removed from your day-to-day life, but is like really there to just kind of support you and have these sort of open conversations and give you input. And so I really got a lot out of that and feel really fortunate for those connections that the university helped to create. And I think, so I'm just echoing, like, the peer-to-peer coaching with Peter Blyde was really great as well. I think it's just because it was really practical and we could practice, you know, we practiced it out with a group of us. So really applicable to kind of take those skills away. And then one of my other standouts was we did a case study, and I won't go into it because I don't know if it's on the content for this year, but it was I've thought back to it so many times because there was this one kind of activity that we had to do, and, you know, Laura talked about how you do kind of practice and you do workshop things, and that was really awesome. And there was this one exercise that we were asked to do, and just it was really impactful for me to just understand that there's not necessarily one type of perfect leader, and that a lot of it can be quite subjective, and, you know, coming back to that authenticity and self as well. So that was a really something that I've taken away and thought about a lot, and one of my favorite things from the course. And that's probably it for me.
Great. Thank you so much, Renee. Yeah. So a couple of things that you hit on, you know, and somebody asked a question about the time commitment. So the first thing is, I think, you know, as you mentioned, we have a lot of people looking at this program, and then we're also looking at overseas programs. Some of the leader, you know, the Stanfords or the MITs or the INSEADs that run senior leadership programs. I think, and, you know, of course, the expense is much greater than coming into this program. But what I always talk about is you're going to, of course, and I've worked for Columbia Business School on different programs overseas, and you have a great network, and it's a global network. But if you're in New Zealand and you want to develop a New Zealand network, I think this is really going to get you what you need, right? So I think as far as a New Zealand network, there's no better. You know, if you want a global network, then this is not going to do that as much for you as going overseas into one of these programs, though of course the cost is exponentially more for those programs. Also, I think, as you mentioned, a lot of the online programs have become bigger and bigger, and I think that, you know, those are very good. But really, in an executive program, executive education, executive MBA, really the learning takes place in the classroom and through those discussions, and you can't get the same doing things online, I would think. So really one of the advantages of a program. And as far as the time commitment, I think, you know, different than an MBA, in a program like this, there aren't necessarily lots of assessments and lots of readings. So it really is what you put into it is what you're going to get out. And we have a lot of optional reading, and there's a lot of optional preparation. And I think, you know, and we can get into it a little at the end, how much time you've put in, how much time you've found you put into these programs. But really that depends on, I think it depends on you. You can just kind of go through and do the classes, or you can put a lot of work in and you're going to get more out of it. So with that, I'd like to move on to Rhonda from Fonterra. And if from a, you know, large organization, large international organization, if you could give us your thoughts on the program, that would be great.
Sure. Thank you, Dave. And thank you for inviting me on. I guess for me, one of the key things is I have an educational background, that is, I have a master's in industrial organizational psychology and have a real passion for working with people. And as such, always saw myself being in that type of field. Which led me to Fonterra 15 years ago in the role of a senior HR advisor. And as Dave said, Fonterra is a very large international organisation, so you have the ability to move around and learn different parts relatively easy. And I did that over a period of time and found myself in an area where I'd been in for at least 6 years and got very comfortable and very familiar. And my manager, my director of P&C at the time, sort of challenged me to look at next options, look at what else is out there. And so that brought me to taking on learning supply chain, and as a result, being a part of this program in terms of the C-suite training. And probably from day one of being in the training, found it really welcoming and really inclusive. The university was fantastic at everything, setting up, getting into the program, making sure you had everything you needed to get started, took care of everything you need as you go through the program. The welcoming with the pōwhiri was amazing because it gave that real sense of feeling like a strong, dedicated community that was coming together to be able to grow their learning and ability. And probably echoing my panelists, you know, every aspect of the program is amazing in one way or another. And to Dave's point, you get out of it what you put into it. So a lot of networking and connection with the participants on the program. A lot of us are from different diverse backgrounds, but we have a lot of common aspects as well in terms of our journey and our challenges. So it was great to be able to bounce that with other people. One thing I found interesting coming from such a large organization, the pathway to C-suite roles is a little different in Fonterra than perhaps others. We have a number of layers that we need to kind of work through. But ironically, I was able to make quite a good use of all the information and tools and techniques in Fonterra in my role, because in reality I'm only 2 steps down from the top anyway, but how we operate as an organization meant that a lot of it was very practical and relevant. So, you know, any real big large organization, people sitting deeper in the depths can absolutely find benefit in the program. For me, a key piece not only was the leadership, but was the change piece. So at the time I was going through supporting one of my units in a lot of big transformational change. And so being able to bounce in the breaks with the lecturers, the academics, some of their knowledge and information on how to work through some challenges I was experiencing, found it really beneficial because it gave that insight and drive to be able to push through. I could immediately take what I was learning in the course, you know, halfway through one session learning this, you know, you have a break before you're back again at the university, and I could put into practice straight away what I had learnt in order to get that benefit and really have it resonate. And so found it really beneficial overall, the ability to constantly connect with industry leaders, and still do today. So I find that not only do you get the benefit in the program and completing the program, as all the panelists have mentioned, it's what happens post-program as well that's really beneficial to us all. I'm sure, you know, keeping connection with your mentor, but each other as well, and that alumni and that support that it provides is fantastic. The other thing I found really beneficial is it opened me up to parts of the university that I hadn't considered necessarily connecting with, to utilise their knowledge to build knowledge in parts of my operational place back in the work. So being able to connect and think about how could the university create some programs that would be beneficial, so people could see the benefits. I had been through some of those specific things that could utilise back in Fonterra for particular managers. So you absolutely get this wider world that you get connected to and can utilise in a much greater sense as well. For me going forward, so partway through the program, whilst I was on secondment and learning part of the business, I ended up taking a promotion partway through. And so as Dave showed earlier, my title became quite an astronomically big title. Fonterra is a bit renowned for that, but my area has grown, so I'm able to practice what I've learnt not only in a small part, but quite a large part of Fonterra's operating model now in terms of their supply chain, food safety, health and safety, and regulatory world. So it absolutely enabled me to take that step with confidence. Like Renee spoke about, it does give you this sense of being able to practice things in a very safe environment and have that confidence to actually push through in your own career. So I've been able to achieve that, and certainly grounding myself and delivering now over the next couple of years what I need to deliver before thinking of the next steps. But yeah, absolutely have found the program of benefit to help me in that journey. Back to you, Dave.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, maybe, as you know, a lot of people now, or a lot of people on the call now, and people I talk to are always getting support from their company can be a challenge, right? Can you talk about that experience and how you pitched it to your organization to get support to go through the program? I'll just open it up to, Rhonda, maybe you just finished, maybe you can start and then go through to the others.
Sure. So for me, it was quite easy. I didn't actually need to pitch anything to my organisation. Quite fortunate, the director, PNC, Kate, she was well aware of the program. She had actually put one of my colleagues on it in earlier years. But she was a real believer in it and had seen benefit as well. So she actually came to me and sort of as part of my development and said, Rhonda, I really want you to consider going on the program. We'll fully sponsor you, give you everything you need to go on it, but think it's a great step to take you on that journey. And we spoke about what it leads on to from there. So for me, it was absolutely no-brainer. It was offered up, happy to take it, and have certainly benefited from it.
Great. And Barry, what about you, coming from a bank, which I'm sure watches their money? How did you go about getting support?
Yeah, I think everyone watches their money at the moment, right? So it's a bit of a challenge from that sort of perspective. But I think it wasn't sort of out of the blue, right? So it's been a path I want to go down. Then I want to be a CTO. Then I want to progress down that particular avenue, sort of thing. So it wasn't completely left field, which helps. Again, I've sort of exhausted a lot of the internal learning sort of thing. So and yeah, frankly, hadn't done much sort of professional development, with the likes of COVID and things the last couple of years. So it sort of felt like again that sort of next step. And yeah, I started having conversations internally around, MBA, not MBA, this or sort of thing. So I sort of kicked it around a little bit as well. And yeah, sort of planting that seed and again, highlighting some of the, strong New Zealand talent that sort of comes through the course and joins from a sort of, just gives time to this sort of area. It was a bit of a no-brainer in the end. Yeah, didn't face any questions to get it signed up at all.
Great. And Kara, what about yourself?
Yeah, quite similar. My peer group in Australia have actually done quite a lot through McKinsey's in Australia and also the University of Melbourne. So my CEO was actually asking me to participate in those courses. As I mentioned in the chat before, though, I have a little bubba. And so it was actually my concern about time. I travel quite a lot post-COVID anyway with work. So I then went about trying to find a comparable program, with that I could actually say to my CEO, hey, I can do this in New Zealand. So it's actually a bit the opposite. They were pushing me. I found this program. They said, yep, looks awesome. Looks like the exact type of thing we want you to go on. So was fully supported.
Yeah, great. And what we are finding in talking to companies is that they do want to develop, there's people, and they want to find the right programs that are going to fit. And we have our short courses, and we have this program. And though it's in New Zealand, it can be a significant cost. The fee is $12,500, certainly relative to overseas programs, and without all the travel, it's really not reasonable amount, I think, for what you're getting from the program. Yeah, I'd like to ask another question. One of the things I think is really interesting is we have such diversity of people coming in from all different industries. And so I wonder if you have any examples of learning from a colleague or even from an industry speaker that was really from a completely, probably somebody that you wouldn't have interacted with if it wasn't through the program, but maybe something you learned from that person that you could bring back to your organization, maybe benchmarking or cross-learning. I wonder if you have any examples of that. Not to put you on the spot, but if you have anything, that would be really interesting.
It's more the lunchtime conversations of listening to how people have applied things and tried things. I mean, I'm going to say this, probably going to make the other panelists laugh, but there was a gentleman in his business essentially was in farming lambs, exporting business, and we often came back to this business to talk about their fundamental issues and ideas. And it was so interesting because none of us had really thought about lamb in such a way before, but it really enabled us to dig into some of the more strategic theoretical concepts in what seemed to us to be an incredibly simplified way. I really enjoyed, that might sound like a really silly example, but I really enjoyed that. Another one was, there was another gentleman who was in charge of very much the marketing of the Blues. And their strategic objective was to be profitable, not taking into account ticket sales. And so again, it was quite, we all know the Blues, we all know Mount Eden, etc. So it was something we could all wrap our heads around and therefore contribute to the ideas. So those were two that still stick with me.
Great, thanks. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we so as you go through the program, we provide on those days that are fully catered, on the days that you're in class, and we have networking receptions. So, and what we found is a lot of collaborations over time have taken place. So basically, I mean, even you're coming in from your business and you're learning about all these other businesses and building these connections, and it's a great opportunity to market your business as well and find partnerships. So as I mentioned the fee a few minutes ago, really compared to getting a new client or a new business. So we're not suggesting everybody come in and try to market themselves, but certainly that's the way, things take place is through that network. Great. Laura, do you have anything you want to add to as we've gone through the discussion and as you plan the program?
No, I'm absolutely thrilled to hear the 4 lovely alumni have agreed to come back and speak. I am utterly thrilled, genuinely, to hear how something that we delivered it's reverberated, you've kept benefiting from it, and you will continue to benefit from it. I mean, that's for someone who is in education, that's amazing. That's really thrilling. And Barry Coughlin, when he had said he is still in touch with his peer mentoring group and that they still are meeting regularly, and it's someone you're not in competition with, you can be vulnerable, you can be honest, you can tell one another. That's just priceless. That's fantastic. So no, I'm so glad I came along to this.
Great. I did, one of the things, we have had people come into the program, and a lot of times the organization is sponsoring you to come in the program, but we've had others that are self-sponsored. 2 years ago, there was a guy that came in that had just moved during COVID, had moved back to New Zealand, and had been successful in IT overseas, but was kind of looking to expand his network, and he came back, and he did sort of a fintech kind of program out of it, and really found the program to be valuable to expand his network. I wonder, Renee, from your perspective in, I'm sorry, not Renee, Kara, from your perspective in recruit, no, I'm getting the wrong people. In recruit, who's with talent? I think, Kara, sorry. Yeah, Kara, sorry. Yeah, from your perspective in talent, can you talk a little bit about I guess as you're talking to people that are looking for jobs, how do you, and your experience watch, being involved with the program, how do you see this as helping people to develop their career path and find new opportunities?
Yeah, I think that's actually really important. We delved into that deeper later in the program with a gentleman from an executive search firm called Carriage Partners, I believe, and he was really talking about. He threw something out to us, and he said, if you're not being headhunted, a couple times a year, you're not actually doing enough to make your brand and your network known enough. And that was very much like laying down a challenge to us. And because I work in recruitment, I think I take all that a little bit for granted, to be honest. We live on LinkedIn, so I think that was great for people that isn't, the external facing part of their role isn't so significant, to really consider, if you have aspirations, it's actually your job to put yourself out there, to develop that personal brand, to create a network, to add to that network, etc. So yeah, I think we did talk about that, and I do think that's important, especially for those in New Zealand. In executive roles, there are less executive roles available. That's just fact. So either we're going to start our own companies, or we're, going to be the one picked for promotion. Or hopefully not move overseas. We want to keep as much talent as possible here. But yeah, I certainly think it's important.
Right, great. And I won't ask you, but you're not now networking with your participants to help them find new jobs. Just a joke.
I didn't.
That's good. But
yeah. I didn't. So no, I thought it was. I actually, that's really interesting you say that, because you talked before around people generating partnerships and conducting business if appropriate. And I actually very consciously said to myself, I will not develop business. That is a core part of my role whilst I'm in this program. And I actually had a couple of my clients in the program. But I did that so that we could all come from a position of comfortable and vulnerability. And I believe most others did as well. We just acknowledged that whilst this may lead to partnerships in the future, this was time for us to grow. Right. So I really appreciated that as well, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Terrific. Well, I think our time is up. I'd just like to thank really especially our alumni for coming along. Thank you so much. I've done many of these sessions over the years, and I would say this is really, really great comments that you came prepared with. So really, really terrific. And like Laura, so happy to hear that you had such a good experience in the program and look back on it finally and gained a lot from it. Thank you to Laura for contributing and for organizing the program this year. You still have, I know a lot of it's done, but there's still work to be done in getting it going for the August start. And thank you to all of you who have joined. We can't see you, but thank you for joining. We'll send you a follow-up email with our contact information, and we're certainly happy to have Laura, myself, Noah, are all happy to have conversations with you following the session and talk about your personal journey and what you're looking to get out of the program from here on out. So with that, I will say have a wonderful rest of your day and a tremendous weekend. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't want to be done the night.